how sneaky these nitrates can be. And there's a reason why I call them sneaky, because I think that a lot of us forget to think about nitrates in this way that I'm gonna explain to you guys tonight. So when we start our aquariums, when we get started in a brand new tank, we tend to go crazy with our water testing, right? We test all the time, we test for everything. Once we learn the nitrogen cycle and we know about ammonia, nitrite, and nitrate, we're testing all the time, right? Myself included. I remember I was like totally OCD with it, and I was testing like every day, making sure this level or that everything was correct. With time, as we progress and get a little bit more experience, is that we tend to stop testing as much, but then we only test for nitrates, right? And the reason why we only test for nitrates is because we're trying to keep track of how fast our nitrates are rising and how big of water changes to do to keep our tank clean. We all should know this by now, that water changes is what removing the nitrates from our tank, among a few other things, but mainly water changes. With a little bit more time that passes, we also end up not even testing for nitrate anymore either, myself included. I've gotten to a point, I feel I understand my tank completely. I know exactly what's going on in my tank. I have a set scheduled water change cleaning schedule. I stick to that schedule. I honor that schedule. I don't miss it at all. So I feel like I don't even need to test anymore, not even for the nitrates, because I already know when I'm supposed to do my water change, right? For those of you that don't know, I do 80% water changes on both those big tanks back there every week. So I stopped testing. And I think that most of us in the hobby, we kind of do the same thing. We kind of get complacent. We feel like we already know what's going on in the tank and we have our schedule set and we're not going to skip it, so we're good, right? Here's what happens, guys. This is what I'm talking to you guys about sneaky nitrates. I'm going to give you guys a hypothetical scenario right now that I want you guys to work with me, okay? Alrighty then. Don't hold me to the numbers and all the details and everything. We're gonna talk about a hypothetical situation, totally theoretical, okay? Let's say that we start a brand new tank and we got water in it and we got fish in it and everything is great. The tank is cycled, you know, everything is just nice and clean and ready to go from day one. Let's just say, we're just saying theoretically, right? That tank, theoretically, we're gonna say has 0 nitrates in it right now at the moment in its current state. When that first day starts and you're at 0 nitrates, because it's just started, even though, you know what I'm saying, guys, right? That's not really possible, but you know what I'm saying. Let's say that a week goes by, and during that week, the bioload in your tank, meaning the amount of fish you have, the amount of decor you have, the amount of feeding that you feed the tank, how often, how much food is being left in the tank, whatever it is that contributes to your bioload, I'm just gonna use the term bioload, right? After that week, your bioload in that tank produced, let's say, 40 parts per million of nitrates. So now you're at the end of the week and you're ready to do your water change, because we all know the general number in the hobby is about 40 parts per million of nitrates. So you go ahead to do your water change at the end of the week and you decide to do a 50% water change. So the way that we reduce these nitrates in our tank is basically by diluting the nitrates in the water volume of the tank. So if we take out 50% of the water, that 50% that stays in the tank still has that 40 parts per million of nitrate. Now, when we add the new water back into the tank, the new 50% of water back into the tank, we're basically increasing the water volume, which dilutes those nitrates, and then we end up with 20 parts per million of nitrates, okay? We cut it in half because we did a 50% water change. Now, here's the kicker. Now, after your water change, beginning of the new week, we're starting the new week at 20 parts per million of nitrate in the tank. When the week before, with our brand new tank, we had 0. Now we got 20. Another whole week goes by, nothing changes, same fish, same feeding, same bioload. That bioload is still going to produce the same 40 parts per million that it produced the week before. But this week, we're starting with 20 parts per million. So at the end of the week, when you go to do your water change, now you've got 60 parts per million in your tank. Okay, no problem. That ain't no problem. You go ahead and you do your 50% water change. You take 50% of the water out. 60 parts per million is still in the bottom 50%. You add new water in. You just diluted it to 30 parts per million of nitrates. And now you start the next new week at 30 parts per million of nitrates. I think some of you are probably following where I'm going with this by now, right?
Yeah, brother.
So new week, 30 parts per million of nitrates. A week goes by, your bioload produces 40 parts again. End of the week, you're now at 70 parts per million. 50% water change, you dropped it down to 35 parts per million. Now in this new week, you're starting at 35. Even if we stick to our holy grail schedule, if we got the best water change schedule in the world, every week you're starting at a higher nitrate level every single week. And eventually, if you continue down that same path of the exact same water change, eventually those nitrates are going to reach very dangerous levels, because you're always starting every new week with more nitrates. Unless, of course, you're doing 100% water changes, which I don't think anybody's doing in this hobby. Some people maybe, but most of us in the hobby are not doing 100% water changes. Even myself, that I do 80% water changes, very big water changes, it's still leaving that 20% of water in the tank still has nitrates in it. And every week that 20% of water has more nitrates in it. So if we just continue down that path, similar to something that we call old tank syndrome, right? It's not really old tank syndrome, but it could be if you think about it in that way. You would say, hey, I'm doing my maintenance religiously every week. I don't miss a thing. And all of a sudden, I don't know, 6 months go by, a year go by, and all of a sudden, my fish start to get disease. They start to get cloudy-eyed. They start looking stressed. And when a fish starts looking stressed out because those high nitrates are in the tank that they're not accustomed to, some fish will get stressed before others. And then the stronger fish can pick up on those weak fish and start bullying them and make them even more weaker, more stressed out, susceptible to even more disease. And you're like, what's going on in my tank? Why are my fish starting to get sick and starting to die? I do my water changes every week, and it's because we got complacent and we stopped testing our nitrates. We're not even testing it because we're just doing our scheduled maintenance. But this is what happens if you allow this to go for too long. Even if we are very loyal to our scheduled water changes, occasionally we need to throw in an extra water change here and there. If you do weekly water changes, maybe every other month or every 2 months or something like that, you gotta throw in a mid-week water change. You gotta do 2 water changes that week. If you do water changes once a month, then you might want to throw in a water change in 2 weeks and then do your monthly, so you get 2 a month, because this is the only way to truly keep those nitrate levels down before they get so high that we're not even realizing that the nitrates are that high, because we're thinking, oh, we're doing our water changes, everything is great. But it's really not. A few weeks ago when I did the Seachem Matrix video, and I went into the store and I was testing, it's a digital reader that spins your water in there and it gives you a digital readout, super duper accurate. That's what began my thinking of, well, you know, I did my water change here and there. Why are my nitrates like this, like that? So that is what's happening in our tanks if we just stick to our regular scheduled water change and never throw in that extra one. That makes sense, guys? Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, hopefully you guys enjoyed that topic.